And welcome to another Cardinals Nest here on HBC TV 25. This is the show devoted exclusively to St. Mary's University and its athletic programs. I'm Dean Beckman, joined once again by my co-host Donnie Netto, the Sports Information Director at St. Mary's. And every week we highlight a specific sport here on the Cardinals Nest. This week, Donnie, it's swimming and diving. We bring in Amber Lowe. Amber is our swimming and diving head coach for both women and men. And already in your fourth season, you're becoming like a wily veteran of the coaching ranks here at St. Mary's. So does it feel like year four, and then now you're seeing some of the swimmers that you've kind of recruited starting to become upperclassmen now, right?
Yeah, I only have 2 athletes on our current roster that I didn't recruit. So yeah, it's different.
Right, different feeling.
What's been the biggest changes from that first year? Do you feel things getting a little bit easier as you move into season 4 in terms of administrative work, in terms of practice plans, things like that? Does it become easier as the years pass by?
Yeah, now I'm kind of in a routine and I know how things go, and just kind of go through things, and it helps that I have a really fantastic assistant in Allie Mayer, so that definitely helps to have someone who knows what's going on and has been here. This is her 3rd season now too, so that helps too.
So I think that begs the follow-up question, Donnie. What is that routine, right? Because you really start training as early as September, and now you're 5 meets into the season. So kind of take us from the start of the season to now, and how you handle some of that preseason training and practices, and now as you get into the meet season, how does that routine differ a little bit?
Yeah, this year we started 2 weeks earlier, so I think that was difficult for some of our athletes because we went, gosh, I think it was about 5 weeks before we had a meet this year. And so that was a long time for some of them to train without being able to see the results right away, having something tangible, a meet or something like that. But once our meets started going, we've been competing really well, and we're swimming tired. So we're lifting really hard, we're swimming really hard, we're swimming a lot of yards. And so we've been swimming really well, but swimming tired. And so that's why this weekend is so important and exciting, is because we've rested. We're not lifting this week. We don't have mornings. And so hopefully they'll be feeling pretty good this weekend, and hopefully we'll see some good swims.
As a former swimmer yourself, I guess my biggest question that I always marvel at is how in a sport like swimming, where you spend so much time training, how do you keep it enjoyable? Because you're just swimming, and it's got to be a grind for, like you said, for 5 weeks before you even get to compete against somebody else. How do you keep it so that the athletes are actually enjoying those type of practices?
I think a lot of it is just the sport. It takes a different kind of person, like cross country. It takes a different kind of athlete to be able to stare at the bottom of the pool for 2 hours straight. And then, they have to kind of rely on their teammates and our upperclassmen to kind of rally each other. And we have a few spark plugs in the water that, like to keep things light and exciting. And so they're really good to have. And then it rubs off on everyone. And so it's been a good past couple weeks. They're working really hard, but their attitudes are good and their spirits are good. So that's always nice.
I'm curious, how do you work with Matt Sager, the strength and conditioning coach? Does each individual swimmer, because they participate in different events, have different, conditioning and strength routines, or how does that work with swimming and diving?
Yeah, their programs are a little bit different. Generally, they're the same, but they'll have different weights and different lifts depending on, what they swim or maybe what they need to work on. And so Matt and I will connect, and if someone needs to work on something, he'll work on that in the weight room. But we're really fortunate to have Matt because he's absolutely amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I remember talking to you your first year here, and you talked a little bit about the adjustment from previous coaching staff to you and your expectations. That seems to really have changed now in terms of expectations from the athletes as they head into these meets, and as you head into this weekend at Rochester, where all of a sudden it's not just, hey, let's just compete and go as fast as we can, but these times that they're getting are actually eye-opening in terms of, wow, these guys are among the best in the conference.
Yeah, I think now that I've been here, this is my 4th year, and so most of them have only known myself and Allie. They know what to expect now, and they can kind of prepare their underclassmen when the freshmen come in. And so this weekend is all about getting excited and exciting your teammates and and building off of someone else's race to get excited for your race. In our home meet against, I think it was St. Norbert's, they came in with a ton of energy. It was their first ever meet. And so we had to kind of match their intensity. And I was a little bit worried about that because they came in like hooting and hollering for that first meet. And I was a little worried that we were going to be a little bit flat. But we matched their intensity and had an awesome meet with St. Norbert's. So that was really exciting to see.
The other thing, too, I'm kind of curious about is, let's kind of start with the women's team here. Who have been some of the standout performers throughout the first kind of 5 meets here? Who's kind of stood out, and who are you looking to for some of that leadership?
Yeah, Brooke Shevchik is probably our top female in terms of, competitive success, but also she's, kind of our constant leader. She's one of those spark plugs in the water. She's always got a smile on her face, and she, rallies her teammates around her. And then we have a couple freshmen that I think are going to do some pretty good things this weekend that have been swimming pretty well, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they race this weekend, and Katie Bites and Ashlyn Seifert. And so we'll see this weekend who else steps up. We've got a couple other supporting casts who have been swimming pretty well. And so it'll be exciting to see who performs this weekend.
And to tell us a little bit more about Ashlyn, she's from Texas. So is that somebody you recruited, or how did she come about to come here to St. Mary's?
So we have Ashlyn from Texas, and we actually have Dakota Becerra from California. And so Ashlyn was familiar with the university. Some family member went to St. Mary's. I can't remember how that worked, but she's familiar with the area, has family with the area. And so her and her twin sister actually both attend St. Mary's. And so they came up and went to a tour and met myself and everything, and we stayed in contact. So she wasn't someone I had initially, had on my recruiting list that far away, but we're glad she's here, and she's been, an important part of our women's team.
You haven't had the twin try to sneak into practice and substitute for Ashlyn if Ashlyn's feeling a little tired or something?
No, she comes on deck for meets and stuff, and we like to have her on deck. She's got a really awesome personality, and she's, a positive person,
Sure.
So we like to have her on deck for meets and stuff like that. But they haven't tried the twin switch on me yet.
You're right. We talked about the women, talk a little bit about the men. Obviously, from my standpoint, we talk about Griffin Radis every meet. He's had really an outstanding start to his sophomore year. Take it back to last MIAC championships, because he just really turned it on. And I know you expected it. I guess I didn't, because he kind of was under the radar for the whole season until that conference championship, and then just absolutely blossomed at that 3-day meet there.
Yeah, he's a relentless worker. He works hard day in and day out. He's a quiet person, but he works really hard, and I knew that he would have a fantastic meet, and so it was nice for everyone else to see what he's capable of. And so this year it's been fun because he's got some guys that push him in the water, and so we've got a few freshmen that are really pushing him, in Cole Stepanovich, Alex Morrow, Darren Onestokonko. And so that's been good for him also, I think, to have someone who's able to push him every day, and they race in the water. Watching him and Cole race every day is so fun.
I was just to kind of piggyback on the conference championships. This weekend is really like almost for preparation-wise a pre-conference championship, because it does have 3 days. It does have prelims and finals, which are different than a normal meet that you'd have on a Saturday. Talk a little bit about the weekend in terms of the setup and how important it is at this time of year to have a meet like this.
Yeah, it's a 3-day meet, and so our Minnesota Intercollegiate Athletic Conference is a 4-day meet. And so it's really important for us to kind of get that feel of being totally exhausted by the last day. And so they're rested a little bit, not as much as they will be for our championships, obviously, but it's really important for us to understand the importance of swimming fast in the morning, because you saw last year how Griffin swam well in the morning, but was 9th in 2 of his events, and then just totally crushed it in the evening, but you can't move up. And so this is a really good meet for them to kind of get a feel for that, especially since we have a good number of freshmen who may have done some prelim final meets, but not to this extent. And so it'll be really fun for them to be able to do a prelim finals meet, hopefully get some swims into finals. It is a really competitive meet, There's D2 teams as well as some of the top D3 teams in the nation. So it will be really competitive to score and final. But I got the psych sheet this weekend, and we look like we're seated pretty well to have some final swims. So that should be awesome.
You know, I know this may sound like a very generic question, but we've been talking about an invitational that you swim on a Saturday, and then we're talking about prelims finals. Can you just kind of explain to people what the difference is in terms of how a meet is set up, prelims finals, compared to a regular meet that you'd swim against St. Norbert like earlier this year?
Yeah, so most of our meets are against maybe one opponent or 3 or 4, and it's all just timed finals. So they just swim this, you know, they'll swim 3 different events, but they only swim them one time. This weekend, they'll swim 1 or 2 events in a session, prelims, and then the top 24 athletes will make finals and swim the same event again in finals. And it'll be like that for 3 days, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Is it a big adjustment for the athletes? Because you only do this twice. You do it this invitational this weekend and the conference championships. Is it hard for them to kind of turn it on and turn it off in terms of a prelim final setup?
You know, our veterans, I think they understand, you know, the importance of prelim swims, and if they get back in finals, how tired their bodies are, and, you know, they have to prepare their bodies to go even faster, hopefully, in finals. Some of the newcomers, I think it's difficult to kind of get a feel for how this works, which is why we go to this meet, is because it mimics our championships, and they need to be prepared once we get there, because, you know, that's the end all. So this is a really important meet for us.
So Amber, I always ask this of the hockey coaches, because the long holiday break really affects your season, right? You go from this weekend, and then you don't have a meet again until January 19th. So that's a really long layoff. How do you handle the layoff with your athletes, and what their expectations are, and when you expect them back on campus and all of that?
Yeah, well, if you would have seen me yesterday, I was pretty stressed out after just 5 days off, so we'll see how I am in January. It helps this year that we are going to Kauai, Hawaii in January, and so we'll be there for 8 days training, and so that makes their break a little bit shorter. And so even if they, you know, don't do what they're supposed to over break, they're gonna train extremely hard in Hawaii, so I can whip them back into shape. But it is hard. You have to trust in your athletes that they know what they're supposed to be doing, and that they're going to put in the work. Because if they don't, then the end results, you know, won't be what they want them to. The taper won't work as it's supposed to be done. So it's really important that they're swimming over break and doing what they're supposed to. And as now I'm in my 4th year, I'm getting a little bit more laid back about that. You know, it is what it is, and when they get back, we'll see where everybody is.
Well, tell us a little bit more about the Hawaii trip. How did that come about, and is this the trip that you take every 4 years, or how? Tell us more.
We go every other year on a trip, and so 2 years ago we went to Tampa, Florida area, and so the team wanted to go to Hawaii, and so we kind of started researching and ended up finding a really awesome pool in Kauai, and started talking to the coach there and stuff, and so that's where we're going. Hey, so we'll be training 2 times a day for 8 days.
I was kind of surprised. I didn't get invited. What's the deal here?
Say one more question, Amber, and that is, Donnie had mentioned earlier the conference championships, right? So it's actually switching from 3 days to 4 days this year, and I think part of that was implemented to allow a little rest time for some of the athletes who participate in multiple events. So tell us a little bit more about the switch from 3 to 4 days.
Yeah, most conferences in Division III do a 4-day meet, so it just made sense that we went to that. But so now they've moved the 800 free relay, and I think it's the 400 medley relay, and men's 3-meter diving to the first day. And so that'll be good for us to get some swims in, but there won't be any individual swims. So I think it's going to be a really positive thing for them to get in and swim relays, because everybody loves relays. And so, you know, for our relay swimmers to get some fast races in and prepare for their individuals the next day.
Yep. And the conference championships, we should point out, in February, kind of right around the Valentine's Day weekend. Right? So.
Right around the corner, really.
So, all right, Amber Lowe, our swimming and diving coach for both women and men, thanks for being on the show, and good luck the rest of the year.
Thanks for having me.
All right, stay tuned. Donnie and I will be back, and we'll talk about all of the other St. Mary's sports and where they're at when we return here on the Cardinals Nest on HBC.
Describe the best thing you ever ate.
It's good.
Woo! Dynamite. Yes.
Hashtag worth it.
Ridiculous.
OMG, OMG.
Whoa.
Wham.
What? That's what I'm talking about.
Wait. Boom.
All new, the best thing I ever ate. Thursday at 9.
You're gonna need sweatpants.
Cooking Channel. Stay hungry.
And we're back here on the Cardinals Nest, HBC. Dean Beckman along with Donnie Netto. Donnie's our sports information director at St. Mary's. And we had Amber Lowe on to talk swimming and diving. And Donnie, it really is amazing how she has changed the culture with swimming and diving, right?
Yeah, no question. And she's done a great job. And I think that, you know, like we talked about on the segment is that she changed it a lot. I mean, the expectation coming in with her now is that you have to put in the training. She expects you to put in the training. She expects you to do well. And, you know, the athletes are responding. And I'm really excited to see how they do this weekend in Rochester, just because it's, you know, kind of the gear up for the MIAC Championships. And then I'm excited for the MIAC Championships. Like I said to Amber in that first segment, you know, Griffin Radis, I didn't really know much about him until the MIAC. And all of a sudden, boom, he's got 6 school records, and he's in the A final in one event and the B final in a couple others. I mean, that's exciting, and that's something we haven't really had here in a while. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the second half of the season here really progresses for them.
Well, and with that trip to Hawaii, I noticed she emphasized a couple of times it's a training trip. And when she says it's a training trip, that's really what she means.
Absolutely.
Right?
She's not going to mess around. That's
there.
right. Now, they certainly will have their time to enjoy Hawaii. At least I hope so. Amber, let them have some time to enjoy Hawaii. But you're right. It's going to be a training trip, and I'm sure they'll train a couple times a day. And hopefully they'll be ready when they come back from Hawaii to really kick off the second half of the season. A couple of dual invitationals, and then they're right into the conference championships.
All right, let's talk about all the other winter sports at St. Mary's. And we're going to start with basketball. We'll start with women's basketball, Donnie. They're off to a great start. In fact, Rachel Kettle was just named the Women's Basketball Player of the Week in the conference. And even though they haven't played a conference game yet, they're really clicking on all cylinders.
Yeah,
right
no
now.
question. They head into Thursday's game against Oshkosh, having won their last 3 games. You know, you mentioned Rachel Kettle. First off, congratulations on the Athlete of the Week honor. What a great honor for her. She's coming into that Oshkosh game with 3 straight double-doubles, including a 16-point, 12-rebound game last Saturday against Bethany Lutheran, and so she's really playing very well, and that's exciting to see. You've got a person there who's coming off of a very strenuous volleyball season, and boom, she picks up the basketball and picks up right where she left off with volleyball, and it's exciting to see her do really well, and they're going to need her to continue to play well, you know, as we get into the conference play, and the demand and the stress and the strain of a long, grueling season. If you can get somebody like her doing that type of performances, that's going to make it much easier for Coach Foley.
Yeah, I had a conversation with Coach Foley. I think he really likes his guard play right now because he brought up a couple of times how many assists they've had in the early going here. So it's not just about the scorers, right? It's you got to get them the ball.
Absolutely.
And
you
his
know,
guards are doing that.
That's one of the things that I've always talked about when I used to coach youth hockey. It's, you know, I never really cared who scored the goal. I cared who gave up the puck to get that person to score the goal. And it's the same in basketball. Somebody's got to give up the ball so that somebody else can score. And you know, they are doing a great job of that. I think they had 29 field goals against Bethany Lutheran. 20 of them were assisted, which is really a phenomenal number. So, you know, Coach Foley's right. It's not easy to give up the basketball. You want to score. Everybody wants to score points. And for them to give it up so that somebody else can score that really says a lot about a team, and they're playing like a team. They really don't have a one person who has to carry the load. Brooklyn Paulson, freshman, is doing phenomenal. You know, she had a career 20-point game last Saturday, and you know, so she can score. You've got Kettle who can score, Jada Biermeyer, and Maggie Robertson, and you know, Kirsten Keefe, Mary Wintroth, and had 10 points against Bethany Lutheran. That was a career high for her. So there are a lot of pieces that Coach Foley gets to work with to try and put this puzzle together as he continues to prepare for the conference season.
Right. I think what stood out to me is as different players have needed to step up, they've been able to do that. Like the Mary Wintroth, who you talked about, 11 points, I think, in the first half against Bethany Lutheran. And Maggie Robertson, one of the players that stood out to me as very much improved over last year.
Well, I think that a lot of it is some of these people are being called upon to fill some roles right now, and they're stepping up and doing that job, and that's what Coach Foley's going to need. It's not a game of just 5 players. They're going to need. He needs to go to his bench, and when he goes to his bench, he doesn't lose anything, and that's really, I think, the part that is working really well for him is he's got a deep bench, and he can go to some people. If somebody's not shooting well, he's got somebody he can put in there. If somebody gets into foul trouble, he's got somebody he can put in there, and I think that's really going to help as you get into the conference, because it really does become a grind. And the more people he can play, the more fresh he can keep these individuals, I think the better it's going to be for him in the long run.
Well, and it shows the players that the coach trusts them, right? And then that's key in any kind of team environment. You got to have trust. If you're on the bench and you get inserted, the coach trusts that you're going to get the job done.
Absolutely.
The other thing, the freshmen, and you mentioned a couple of them with Jada and Brooklyn, they're not playing like freshmen, are they?
No, they're impressive, and it was really fun on Saturday to watch them because we haven't seen them play yet. And I was very impressed with the play of the freshmen. Obviously, we've seen Rachel play, and we've seen Kirsten Keith play, and Mary play, and we've seen them play in the past. But these freshmen look really good, and it's a really nice combination that they've got going right now. And Coach Foley's got them playing very well. And I think that that certainly bodes well for him. Coming in as a first-year head coach and has this team clicking the way it is. I think that's very exciting, and I'm happy for him that things are going the way they are.
Right, and speaking of clicking, you've got Joe Fano and the men's basketball team with 3 wins already, Donnie. They're looking really good as they get set to start conference play now on Wednesday.
Yeah, no question. To be able to talk about the men's basketball team, 3 wins in 4 games is very exciting, and I think that Coach Fano's got this team believing in his system, and they've all bought into what he's expecting, and I expect this to continue. I don't think this is just a cupcake non-conference schedule, because it hasn't been.
No.
I mean, they've played some extremely tough teams, and they've played very well. I think that Wednesday will be a big test when they kick off the conference season against St. Olaf, a team that really manhandled them twice last year. I don't think that's going to be the case this year, and actually, I wouldn't be surprised if we talk next week that the Cardinals have a couple of conference wins after this week with St. Olaf and Carleton. So they're playing very well. You've got to give some credit to a couple of injured players from last year who are back this year, in Eli Cave and Kevin Gleason, both playing very well, and obviously huge additions for Coach Fano as he put this team together. And Eli had a 35-point night, which is obviously a career high for him, and just 3 points shy of Mike Burfine's 38 points that he set in 2011. Mm-hmm. So he's proven that he can do the scoring. Kevin, we knew, is a good point guard. He does a good job. David Lindstrand has been hampered a little bit with injuries, but is coming back and doing very well. Kareem Anthony Bello had a big rebounding game against Luther last Saturday with 13 rebounds, which was a career high for him. So there's, again, a lot of pieces, a lot of places he can go, and Coach Fano's taking advantage of that.
Yeah, no question about it. And I think the thing, too, you mentioned Gleason and Cave. They seem to bring a certain energy level to the team, right? They play with high energy. Of course, Kevin is the point guard, so that's sort of required for that position. And Cave, he's multi-dimensional. He can play inside, he can play outside, and we talked off camera, really silky smooth free throw shooter too. So
yeah, he really
kind of
is.
do it all.
And for a guy who is as tall as he is, I'm sorry I don't have a roster. When you're 5'7", everybody's tall, but Eli's got some size, but he plays like a guard. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's great from outside, he's great from inside, and like you said, he really is good at the free throw line. And I think that energy that those two bring, I think part of that might be the fact that they spent all of last year on the bench, mm-hmm. Working as kind of as student assistants, but because they were injured, they didn't play all year. So I think they kind of, the hunger might have grown a little bit more. Hey, I'm healthy now, I get to play, I don't have to sit here and watch other people play, I can contribute. And I really think that that's part of that hunger, that energy that they bring is you know what? I don't want that to happen again. I want to be out there helping this team to win, and that's really what they're doing. Yeah.
And we transition now to hockey. We'll look at men's hockey. And speaking of hungry, Donnie, they came oh so close to getting their first win of the season against Lake Forest. Played a doubleheader recently, non-conference, against Lake Forest, and ended the last game with a tie again.
Yeah, Kyle Meeks scored 2 goals in 25 seconds in the first 2 minutes of the third period to pull St. Mary's even at 4-4 and get them that tie. And it's been a little bit frustrating for Coach Moore in that they haven't found that win yet. They've got a couple of ties, one against St. Thomas and then the one against Lake Forest. But the reality is that they are so close to being 8-2 rather than
right.
0-8-2, and that may sound silly, but they've played 10 games, 9 of which have been decided by 2 goals or less. 6 of those have been by 1 goal. 4 of those have gone into overtime. So I mean, every game has been a battle, and we knew that coming in. And so you've got 6 games against nationally ranked teams out of your 10. So you're playing high-level competition, and you're playing them very well. They obviously need to get a win just to get over that hump, to get some confidence building. But as Coach Moore said after the Lake Forest series, this is a group that's going to continue to keep battling. They're not going to throw in the towel. They're not going to hang their heads. They're just going to get back to work on Monday and get ready for St. John's this weekend and continue to battle. And that's the part that makes this such a good team, is that they're far from over. They've only played 4 conference games.
Right.
They're still looking for their first win. They're 0-3-1, but you've got St. John's, again, a team that made it to the MIC playoffs last year this weekend. Then they'll step out of conference play one last time before the break against Superior next weekend. And so hopefully they can get a win or two and kind of get this ball rolling. But there's a lot of hockey left to be played, and the fact that they're so close really makes me think that, as funny as it may sound, when we're talking playoffs in January, this team's going to be right there looking for a playoff spot.
I get a sense once they get that first win, it's going to be like an avalanche and just keep coming. But as we go now to women's hockey, Donnie, just a few minutes left here. Nice to see the senior, Ashley Corcoran, back in goal for Greg Moore's team.
Yeah, she had a great game against UW Eau Claire, 39 saves, outstanding performance by her as the captain. She's kind of leading the way for this team, and Coach Moore, the other Moore,
not Bill, Greg.
Right now their offense is struggling, and he knows that. But just like we talked about with the men's team, is they're so close in so many games, and they're playing well. They've got a lot of young players that need to kind of mesh with this team, and hopefully they've got St. Ben's this weekend. If they can get the ball rolling a little bit, maybe get a couple of wins there, then they'll close out their season next Saturday against UW Stevens Point, and then they head into the break as well. So these next couple weeks are kind of important just in terms of getting that ball rolling and kind of getting some confidence as you head into the break, because the break is a long one, and you come back after probably January 2nd they'll come back, and so you've got some time to sit and think. You want that time to be thinking when we've got a couple wins rather than a loss. So I know St. Ben's is a huge weekend this weekend, being conference, and then they'll close out with Stevens Point before the break.
And I'm sure Greg sees it as a luxury that even though the offense is struggling, he has 3 really good goaltenders to count on.
Very good, absolutely.
So they're going to be probably low-scoring games, but at least you're going to be in them each and every night.
Absolutely.
So, Donnie, just a minute left here. I want to ask you about all the changes this fall at St. Mary's. As we enter December now, how has it been? How has the transition been? New athletic director, new women's basketball coach, new men's basketball coach, new president for the university.
You see a lot of excitement. I think that's the thing. And as people say, change is good. It doesn't always have to be. I mean, I'm old. I've been here 24 years, and so change is good. Brian's doing a great job. Brian Sisson, our new AD, is doing a great job of kind of implementing his plan and what he wants to see in the athletic department. Coach Fano and Foley have been awesome to work with. They both begin with F, so I'm having trouble remembering which one's which. But they've been really enjoyable to work with. I've enjoyed both of them and seeing the passion that they have. And with the new president, everything is new. And so it's an exciting time. Kind of everybody's kind of trying to figure out still where everything will fall. But it is definitely an exciting time and an enjoyable one in the athletic department. With those 3 new hires, it's been very fun.
Sure. All right, that's going to do it for this week's Cardinals Nest here on HBC. Thanks for watching.